Good evening, Majid. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? It's the question I always ask every person I'm interviewing.
Yes, absolutely nailed it.
All right, perfect. Thank you for taking the time to discuss together a little bit about your journey as a developer. The first question I ask always, or the second question after about the pronunciation of your name, is just to give us an intro about yourself. So you have the choice. You can use 3 words, 3 numbers, or anything that you'd like. It's just a suggestion to go through with 3 words or 3 numbers. Go ahead.
Okay, I think I found these questions sometimes the most difficult questions, right? It's sometimes hard to introduce yourself, but let me try. So my name is Majid. I am a Google developer expert for Flutter and Dart and a passionate software engineer, a community leader, especially in Flutter community. And I do a lot of contribution to different communities, particularly the most important one, Flutter community. So I've been developing software for years, over 10 years. And I'm happy to share my knowledge from time to time by different approaches, from video tutorials, from blogs, from, talks and things like that. And that's me. I'm here with you right now.
Perfect. Thank you. For those who don't know, I will post a link in the description of the video as to what a Google Developer Expert is. It may sound obvious to you and to others, but not everyone is aware of all the programs that Google offers to developers. Thank you for being a GDE, by the way. But today you're actually here because one of your content pieces has been selected. You've submitted something to the dev library, and this blog post was selected. Specifically, it's about authentication of a Flutter app. Do you want to talk a little bit about this? I believe you start with an intro distinguishing making a distinction between authentication and authorization to make sure people are not confused, and then you go into the details. It's a very in-detail, step-by-step guide for authentication. Do you want to talk a little bit about this blog post?
Sure, absolutely. Well, that is actually, as you said, it's a very comprehensive blog about authentication and authorization, particularly pointing OAuth 2.0 and OpenID Connect. And I started to writing these blogs because, well, I couldn't find anything like very comprehensive about this. And I found that Flutter developers particularly are from time to time struggling to understand what's going on, right? Why? Like usually you see an article that says, oh, add this package, install this package and then add these URLs and everything will work. But then you don't understand how. And that was the intention behind this article. I started to go deeper and explain about the protocol, the different ways that you can make this, protocol to work, and then how to implement it in your application. And also on top of that, how to leverage the, role-based and permission-based, solution on the application, how you can, implement that in your application. So this was the idea behind, the article, which I think ended up being over 5 series or 5 articles in one series. And I think I wrote around, I don't remember exactly. Last time I counted, it was like a mini book, let's say, around. I counted on Google Doc, which I was writing, and it was around 100 something pages. It was like very comprehensive. Yeah.
As I always say, we will put the link to your author page on Dev Library in the description of this video. So you'll be able, anyone who wants to consult the series can do so easily. What led you to Flutter in the first place? You could have done, any other framework or explored any other framework. Have you considered other frameworks, and why Flutter? Why not something else?
I actually was developing in different frameworks before Flutter, for sure. And when this is a very long story. I just want to make it very short. Like at 2000, maybe 14, or like when Flutter was beta, 2017 something, or 18, I was trying to find another alternative to Xamarin. And at that time, I was doing PhoneGap and Cordova. Those who have done Cordova, they know the pain. They know what I'm talking about. And I was trying to find out any alternative. I knew some others. I worked with them. And then I found Flutter. And when I found Flutter, started to just following the setting up the environment, and it was like, wow. So in like 5 minutes, entire system was up and running, and I was developing. And I had a hot feature, in Flutter, which I was writing something or creating something in the application or my editor, and it was immediately appearing on my simulator. And I said, I'm going to love this. I know this is going to win, and I want to continue with this framework. And in fact, that's the reason I'm here after maybe 5 years doing Flutter. And I'm still in love with Flutter and all of the features that it's providing to developers.
What challenges did you face when exploring Flutter, if any, and how did you resolve these challenges? Maybe it was to do with documentation or examples or code samples, anything that you remember in your journey over the past 5 years where you felt that was a hurdle and this is how I overcame it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. In the beginning, well, many, technologies are coming and they don't have like big communities around them, right? So in fact, the ecosystem is not mature enough. So I found that a little bit challenging in the beginning. So there were not many good plugins or packages. What I did in the beginning, I started to write and try to learn more and write more and educate more developers, and somehow enable them to create more for Flutter ecosystem. And I also did myself, like I had packages, examples, gist, and things like that, which is at that time it was very hard to find them. These days, well, if you search, you find a lot of them. But I think promoting those content in the early stages was probably very challenging for me. And also writing them because, well, you needed to realize the entire things to write something about it. Whereas these days, you go and probably read some articles. The documentation is very nice and comprehensive, and then you understand it better. But at that time, I had to even read the source code of Flutter to understand what's going on right now, So these was the challenges in the beginning. But hopefully, I think this is somehow resolved, and we have very good content right now in the community, and also packages. Like, I think the Flutter ecosystem is pretty mature right now.
If you were to start today, or if you were to give a piece of advice to a developer who's starting fresh with Flutter today, what would you tell them? Where should they get started?
It's a very good question. I get this question many times, especially when I go to different communities and they ask, like, how should I start? Where should I look at? To me, even if you are very fresh, like you have no programming, absolutely no programming, knowledge, then still coming to Flutter is okay. Some people say that you have to go and read, learn Dart, the language, and then come to the Flutter. I'd say maybe not. Maybe you can start learning Flutter slowly, and while you're learning the framework, you can also learn the language as you go, and so you can build the stuff and you enjoy as well. The first point to start probably is Flutter documentation. So there is a very nice step-by-step guide to how to set up your environment, and how to manage different packages, how to add, things like that. So there are very good documentation on Flutter pop.dev Flutter documentation that you can see. And another thing that I can tell you is most likely, well, if you search on Google right now, there are a lot of videos out there from the GDEs, Google Developer Experts, and Googlers. The Flutter YouTube channel is one of them. And your libraries, in fact, might be one of them right now. Just filter Flutter, probably look at those, libraries, those articles. So, but to me, starting from Flutter documentation, step-by-step guide is probably where you need to start with Flutter. And then slowly move on and then, expand your, not from documentation, but to other channels such as Flutter YouTube channel and, you know, other trusted people from the community.
Conversely, what is the worst piece of advice that you've heard in our industry, in the tech industry? Is this something that when you hear it, when you read it, it makes you feel, no, this is wrong, this is absolutely not correct? Is there anything like that?
I think sometimes I hear that people say it's not possible. I have a mindset that I said everything is possible. It just takes time and, well, maybe a little bit of cost and money. so to my opinion, it's very worse advice to tell to someone, oh, you cannot learn this. Oh, you know, oh, this is hard for you. Or I think this is very bad advice. Everything is possible. You can do that. You can do anything because I have done it. The other people that have done it, then probably you can do it as well. It's just the skill that you need to acquire. So to my opinion, then this is the worst probably advice. Do not listen to this advice. Just always think that everything is possible and you can do it.
You told me before we chatted officially on this video recording that you have an international background, that you speak 3 languages. Would you like to talk a little bit about the importance of having impact locally?
Absolutely. Well, you know, there are sometimes I feel like in the community, people think like if they provide only English, you know, let's say as a like international language content, well, they will reach out to different people and, you know, they will have impact. Look, I have different opinion here. I provide a lot of English content for sure. But I'm also very active in my local communities, like in Norway, for example, where I live, and you know, in other languages that I know, for example, Persian. So sometimes it's not really important about how wide you go. It's important about how impactful you are. Like, imagine you are going for a small community, you're providing some content and you're helping 10 people to make their life better. Whereas you do the same thing for like global audiences and, well, probably no one even care because, well, the competitors over there are a lot, right? There are lots of those contents. You may not even get to reach, let's say, to those audiences that you are targeting. So to my opinion, then, so it's important to start from your local community. Get to know them. If you know, like if you're coming to Flutter, where is the Flutter local meetup? Where is the place in your local community, like Google Developer Group, right? GDGs. Like, can I go there and ask about like contribution? Can I contribute there? Can I help developers in my local community to learn Flutter? And you know, the other things. This is going to be impactful. And slowly, when you build up this network and community, then you can come up and then produce, because you gain, let's say, experience. You have done impactful, you know, things for your community. You learn a lot, then you can come and even have more impact than on a global, let's say, stage. So that's my opinion for sure.
You mentioned possibly joining a local meetup or a developer group. Do you have any thoughts or any piece of advice for engineers or developers who may feel a bit shy? I know, may not come across, but I'm a bit of an introvert at times, and I may find it difficult to engage in a social setting, even though I may have skills to share or things to learn from others. Do you have any piece of advice based on your experience or observations that could help someone who feels that way to actually take that step of looking up the local meetup, the local community, because they probably would have a lot of impact, but they can't even do the first step of contacting or going there?
Yeah, well, this is a very good question. So you're asking this question from an extrovert person. So I never had this problem, to be honest. In fact, I had one problem in the beginning. I can share that experience. So 5 years ago, when I started to contributing, I had a hard time to find out where or who should I contact, right? And one thing that I realized is, well, I can go to GDGs, as you said, and local meetups and find the community leaders and contact them. You may get an answer or may not. One thing I learned here is that if you have if you decide, even if you are introvert, if you decide that you want to do something, then you will go out of your comfort zone a bit, and then you can find a way to present yourself anyway. So, right? So many of these people that are introvert, I feel, I've never been, but I've been with introvert people. I feel like they always think they are not good enough, maybe, or they are not very well, they are not a person that can very well explain, let's say, or even communicate. In fact, that's not correct, right? The initial communication probably is the problem, maybe. Again, correct me here, Sebastian, if I'm wrong. But I feel, so if you decide, have a little bit of discipline, say, oh, I want to do this, I need to do that, and then reach out with a proper plan, you will probably find someone that helps you to get into the community. And the next thing that I learned is it's very important you find a mentor. So someone that can help you to get yourself from out of your comfort zone and, help you to promote you for doing what you are afraid of doing, probably. Finding a mentor also is very, very important, I believe.
Thank you for your insights. I have two more questions, two quick questions for you. One is, what makes you excited going forward? Are there any pieces of technology that you're keen to experiment with? Maybe it's related to Flutter, maybe not, maybe it's unrelated. Anything that you have in mind that you're thinking, oh, I can't wait to play with this, whether it's released or not?
Well, the technology you mentioned, yes, there are a lot of technologies that I want to play around for sure. And one of them is I still have not done quite a lot with, and I really want to do is maybe ML and AI. So I really want to get my, hand and knowledge going a little bit in depth to these technologies. So that's one thing I definitely want to do.
What would be the final words that you'd have for developers? Anything you'd like to share with fellow developers or beginner developers? We talked a little bit about the topic, but any final few words you'd like to share with developers out there?
Sure. I have probably 4 things that I can share, and I learned it over my career. The first thing that I can tell you is, well, as I told you in this interview, everything is possible. So to do what you are going to do, you need to have probably 4 things, and that's what I'm going to share with you. One thing is try to practice. So by practicing, you definitely can learn more. Second is try to have discipline. Set up a discipline for your career, for your skills. Set what you want to do and stick to that. And third one is consistency. Try to be consistent. If you're learning something, consistently learn that thing. And, have a schedule, program something for yourself. And then at the end, and the most important one, do not give up. So if you don't give up and have the rest of the things that I mentioned, you definitely reach to your goal and whatever you need, hopefully.
I love your 4 points. Discipline. Sorry, you said practice. Discipline, right. Consistency, and don't give up.
That's it.
Love it.
You will nail it.
Thank you very much, Majid, for your time and for your insights.
Thank you very much for having me.